What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Mehul, and today I am joined by a very special guest, okay? He is a Order of the British Empire, an actor, a director, a writer. He's probably been in some of your biggest TV shows that you have seen. It is Adrian Lester. Adrian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to be here, man. Well, I say here, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Virtually.
virtually here, together, chatting.
Chatting away. How has lockdown been for you?
It's been interesting. I think a lot of people have found, a lot of people who are not sort of in the creative industries have found that going into a space, the space we're in now, where you have no control over your work prospects and what's going to happen next, you are kind of, you're being dictated to about whether you can go out, whether you can move, whether you can go here, go there, has been strange for a lot of people. It's been strange for people in the creative industries, but I'm just going to say that we are kind of a little more used to that kind of scenario in our working life, because that's just how it is. Someone is going to tell you at some point that you might have a gig or a job or a project sometime in the future. It's always out of your hands. You never know when you're going to get paid next, and it's we live like this. So there's been a bit of I've observed that in other people from other industries, which has been difficult. But I think the tough thing for us all has been there's not been really a unified message as to what we should do at each stage, especially with the toing and froing that's been happening with lawmakers and people and decision makers. So that's been annoying, but mostly it's been unsettling. People are feeling very, very vulnerable and very worried. So it's a trying time for all of us, but it's a point where I think we've come to realize the things that connect us are more important, and how we are supposed to take care of each other and our key workers and the NHS and all these things that we can sometimes in society anyway overlook have suddenly become much more important, and I'm grateful for that shift of perspective.
Definitely. Well, we kind of touched on about work. We'll kind of touch on a bit more in detail later, but I want to kind of take you all the way back to the beginning, all the way back. Where did
all the way back?
All the way back. Where did the love of performing kind of start and come from?
Yeah, man. I'm born and raised in Birmingham. I started singing in a cathedral choir when I was 9 years old, and I just was up and performing in front of people in that space before I kind of even realized what performance really was. Really, I mean, I was 10 and 11. And then I got to really like it, and I started to understand just what the a group of people coming together to do a unified thing, what the power of that, what you could do with that. And I then joined a children's opera company when I was 13, and then I joined the youth theatre when I was 14, and I just thought it was amazing what the youth theatre members could do. I first encountered them in the Birmingham Youth Theatre when I was in the Children's Opera Company, and we were rehearsing an opera, and they had members of the youth theatre come in to our rehearsal room because they were going to do a sort of mime of all the operatic pieces we were singing. So they were going to do we're there standing there singing, and these 15, 16, 17-year-olds were coming in and they were going to do this mime, and they're all in costume and stuff. And I remember singing and watching them and thinking, how are they doing that? Because they were doing something with a cloth and a ball, and they were all moving in the same way. And it was sort of magical with this music that was going on. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to learn how to do that. How are they doing that? Because for me, it was like magic. They'd all come, they were just, 5 people. They had nothing in their hands. They had nothing around them. But on cue, they all suddenly went became this thing. And I just thought that, I remember my young head just going, that's amazing. I want to learn how to do that. And so I joined the youth theatre, and I've kind of never stopped playing around in front of people and pretending to be someone else. That's it.
And then that kind of led you go into drama school a little bit later on. And coming from Birmingham down to London, what was that like? Because it must have been such a completely different environment.
It was. And when I tell young people that there was no mobile phones,
Oh,
they kind of look at me like, what? So you couldn't find, maps where you were going. You just had an address and a phone number, and you turned up, and if you couldn't get them, you went to a phone box. Um, so, and I remember coming down the first time, and I had the help of my dad then when I first got to London. And then I was on somebody's sofa for almost the first term at drama school. Then I had a little box room in someone's flat, Angel Estate in Brixton. And then I got a room in a house in Mitcham. So I've always been south. As soon as I came to London, I've always lived south. I've never lived north. I still live south now. So I've kind of sort of a Birmingham expat or something. But anyway, and it was scary. It was big. It was weird. I just turned 18. I just left home to go to drama school. I would do drama school in the week, and on a Saturday and Sunday, because I didn't know, anyone really in London, I would take the tube into the centre of London, and I would just walk around. Yeah. And just walk London, and then I would pass another tube station and go, oh yeah, that connects to that, and that connects to. There was a part of me, I suppose, that was thinking I had to learn this new city because this was going to be my new home. I suppose when I look back, I think that's what I was doing. Yeah, I was bored as well with a book, but I was just sort of wandering the city. Something slightly poetic about that, and sad. I was there with the collected plays of some author or whatever, in my pocket, and I was wandering London and looking around and reading bits of plays and wandering and looking around. So yeah, very creative. But anyway, that I just got to know the city, and that's kind of what I did when I first got here.
Wow. So, and then that led you kind of from drama school going straight into theatre. That must have been an absolutely chaotic experience, just going from school. Now you're doing the dream. It must have been the dream though, isn't it? Because you're going straight away and bang, bang, bang.
It was, because you're thinking you're not going to, the fear at drama school or in any kind of training before you sort of feel you're starting in your chosen profession is that you're not going to work. That, over and above everything, whether your product's good, whether you can do it or not, you just think, am I going to work? Are people going to want to listen to me, hear me, see me, employ me? So there's that fear. And looking back, I wish I hadn't had so much fear, but I was sensible and I knew the risks. And my first job out of drama school was to go up to Edinburgh to take part in the festival, to do a play where I had no lines, and I was a political prisoner. So an ANC political prisoner in a South African jail cell. So it was interesting. And also I was leaving at a time, Mandela was still in prison, apartheid was still going. This play was talking about that powerfully. So I went and did that, and then after that I joined the Theatre and Education Department at the National Theatre, and 5 of us did a potted version of a Shakespeare play, and we took it around schools and taught A-level students. So it was weird for me that I was teaching A-level students about Shakespeare and how to perform it, how to speak it, and how to break it down, and I had never done Shakespeare at school, and I'd never even done A-levels. So I hadn't taken an A-level exam. So it was weird to me that I was now here teaching these kids.
Gosh, and then obviously you got a big break in telly. And I think I read somewhere that before you got Hustle, in terms of sort of broadcast experience, you didn't have that much experience before you got Hustle.
No, not that much.
Not that much.
I'd done primary colours. I'd done some films, but not TV stuff. TV had sort of missed me out, I'd done bits here and there, but I hadn't done anything, proper. So Hustle comes along, and I was kind of, I just thought, well, I loved it because it wasn't the same character every week. There was like every time, Mick was on the screen, the gang was on the screen, they were all going to pretend to be different people. So one week I remember I was from Birmingham and I had glasses and I was a bit geeky, and the other week I was some American, hotshot, and then I was very upper class sort of British, and I could just play these different characters, so it never felt like I was locked in one place doing one particular thing all the time. I was switching and switching, and I loved that play. I thought it was great.
It was amazing. It was such a great show. Like, I know everyone's similar ages to me. Growing up, that was like the big thing at the time. Hustle was huge. We were all talking.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
But it's a crazy thing, because when you go into that TV world, it's so different to being in theatre. And then at the same time, you're doing major films as well. Each one is just so different from the other. What skills kind of separate each one that you kind of need to like focus on more?
I try not to repeat myself when I'm doing that kind of work. And even in trying not to repeat yourself, you repeat yourself. You know, there's always certain themes that you always come back to, because it's just you're being honest and you're being yourself. But I try not to repeat myself. And I found in theatre, by the time I was lucky enough to get a kind of reputation going, that if I did a Shakespeare play, then all the calls that came in would be about, asking me to come and audition, or would I be interested in doing a Shakespeare play here? And would I be interested in a Shakespeare play here? And I would just walk away from it and just go, no, I want to do something else. Then if I did a sort of comedy or a musical, the calls that came in were, would you like to do another musical? Would you like to do a musical here? They saw you in this and they're wondering if you want to do it. And I would just walk away from that, and then I'd do something else and something else. So I wanted to walk the path that I admired, which was I always admired the actors who could turn their hand to anything and be anything. And I really admired that. And I also admired the thing about actors, which I've said quite a few times, is that there are some actors you can impersonate because they're going to be the same in every role that you see them in. And then there are other actors that you can't impersonate because you don't. They always shift and change. You can impersonate them as a particular role, but you couldn't impersonate them just per se. Like, this is this person, and this is John Mills, this is this person. You couldn't do it because they just keep shifting. There's something that is subtly different. And I wanted to be that kind of actor. I wanted to be the kind of actor you couldn't impersonate. Like, no one could sort of on a chat show go, who's this? And then they do my voice and my mannerisms, and then people go, oh yeah, that's him, because he's always,
pigeonhole.
I wanted to be unrecognizable, accent, mannerism, everything. So I've never really been like myself on screen, because I'm very, I haven't got a very strong Birmingham accent at all, just a trace, I think, after so many years having left home. But I'm much more handsy and, like this than I ever appear on.
Showman.
So it's just kind of, it's an interesting thing. But I wanted to, I just wanted to be different and change and be more of a chameleon, and try and make every job make me a better actor, I suppose. Yeah,
well, it's funny because I've noticed, mainly I've always sort of been a TV and film person, coming from the background that I come from. That's all you kind of focus on. Like, theatre is just a completely different world that isn't almost made for people like me. I watched Hamilton actually the other day, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, I see people that look like me, they're performing in a language that connects to me. And generally that was the first experience I've ever had with theatre, because through the years, I was like, oh, whenever I see people go to theatre on TV, they're always wearing suits and they're nice and smart. And you just see that whole grandeur with it. And I'm like, with my hat and my hoodie, and I'm like, this doesn't, no, I don't get it. But that just connected with me, like, on a completely different level. And I know there's just so many big things, but like, what do you think theatre makers can do to kind of attract young people like myself to go to the theatre?
The first thing is to make sure that theatre makers look like me and you. That's the first thing. Is to make sure that the people in those buildings, the people taking the decisions, the people directing, the people writing the plays, the people brought in to do workshops, the people who are behind the desks making the decisions in all of those spaces up and down the country should look like me and you and others who are a part of other, I would say, marginalized communities. So that's the first thing. Because then their understanding of subject matter and appearance and story and, you know, character will be much, much, much wider than certain monocultural views that exist at the moment. The other thing I would say is that people have got to when I sometimes I love classical work, but when you pick up these classical plays and you from the 60s, you know, 50s, 40s, 30s, you know, and back, when you read them, when people like me and you read them, somewhere you get a sentence or two or a paragraph where the author is using the actors to make the audience feel much, much more secure about their position and their accent and their place in the world and being British and so on. And there's always sometimes a little pop in attitude or a line or a joke directed sometimes at people like you and me and other marginalized communities. So you kind of have to understand that the British sort of system of drama, it's another institution, and it has its problems, because the people who've been creating theatre, writing plays, directing plays up until this point have been educated in a certain way. Now, it's not their fault, that's just what they've been taught about the world. And we have to unpick that education and re-educate people. And I think that the younger generation are the best people to do that. With everything that's going on in the world, it feels very negative. You look at America, you look at Britain. But actually what's happening with all of this violence and sadness and protest and so on, and the protest needs to happen. But with all of that that's happening, what's happening is that truly happening in both our countries is that a generation of Black, brown, mocha people of different genders, non-binary, whatever, a generation of people are being galvanized and politicized in a way that they haven't been for years. And that's happening now. And in 5 or 6 years' time, we're going to feel the impact of those people stepping up to the plate and taking their position and having their say. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm really charged by the young voices that are speaking up and saying things that are from a perspective that is new to me and that I'm so grateful for. And that's happening now. And the more the people who are in charge indulge in their stupidness, the more the younger generation is being galvanized to take action, to step up and to make change. And I love that. I think the world doesn't really know what's about to hit it.
It's going to change. Things are massive.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of touched on, when I was kind of looking, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to theatre after seeing Hamilton. Obviously, I can't now. But I started, like,
we'll get them open for you, I promise. We're working on it. We're going to get them
open. We're working on it. But I was like looking and thinking, like, where can I go? Like, what are the type of things? How much, first of all, because I know they're mad expensive tickets. But I saw, like, the Jamie Lloyd Company, he's got the likes of Emilia Clarke, Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain. And I'm like, wait, these are like big, like, worldwide household names, and they're coming to do theatre, which seems so small. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, Jessie Ware's podcast with Nicole Scherzing, and she's like, yeah, the theatre is such a sacred place. What makes people want to perform in the theatre when they're like household names? You know, they can just do one project every couple of years and just kind of relax back. They don't need to kind of put themselves out into that 7 days a week, working every single day for 6 months. Like, what draws them to do that?
Firstly, it's the material. The material is always really good and tests you as an actor, and sometimes tests you as an audience as well. For a lot of the time, some of the time, half the time, you don't feel comfortable as an audience member in a theatre. You're there to experience something that takes you slightly out of your comfort zone, hopefully. So there's that to it. And also being on stage, it's a certain type of actor that can be on stage. Not every actor can handle stage work. It is not easy. Your muscles, your voice, movement, awareness of audience, timing, being able to play with your fellow actors on stage, and yet at the same time be aware of the audience and play all that. It takes awareness, it takes training, it takes practice. It's hard work. 8 shows a week, you know, for 6 months is gonna put a strain on you. and not a lot of actors can handle that. Not all actors who are working in film and television can be put on stage. They wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't have the discipline. I'm just going to say it. They wouldn't have the discipline. And going on stage and working with a team of actors, the camaraderie, everyone being there at the same time, all working for the same goal in front of an audience. That's something that's it's really good. It feels really good to be part of a good company working like that. It is a really nice feeling, and you're working your material and you're working your craft, and that's really good.
Yeah, well, we kind of touched on at the beginning, like how freelance this industry actually is, or everything, film, TV, theater. And I don't think people fully understand how, like, literally you could be having a contract for 1 month and you could literally easily have 4 months having nothing. And then all of a sudden you're working again for 6 months, and then it just is so crazy. How do you what advice would you give for people in front of the screen, behind the screen, kind of managing that freelance life?
I mean, you always keep in touch and contact and reach out to people that you've worked with. Keep watching material as much as you can. Keep seeing films. Keep looking at films. Keep, every day I'm looking and studying and watching, and also understand that I suppose you work hardest when you're not working, really, because you've got to galvanize your own process, your own discipline, and learn. Just keep learning while you're sort of unemployed. Keep at it. Just never switch off. When I'm not working, I try to physically, stay in some kind of shape. I'm not a gym person, though. That I'm just not that person. If you are, it's great. So if you're watching this and you go to the gym regularly, I'm happy for you. It's just not my thing. Unless I have to achieve a certain particular goal, it's not my thing. I do martial arts, and so for me, the movement and coordination and balance is a bit like dance, and so it keeps me sort of loose in that way. I try to indulge in some music all the time, a little bit of singing to work the voice sometimes, and just keep working, keep practicing. And in this period, it's been a retreat. It's been my sort of salvation to be able to. One is hang out with the family so much, but the other one is just to play music and do my classes and read and watch good films.
Yeah, and I think the public are now kind of seeing how important the arts actually is. Like, and there's a big push on Save the Arts. I know so many people backing it. Like, what are your views on it? Is it kind of great to kind of see people who didn't recognize the importance of it before now feeling passionate about protecting it?
Yeah, that's really important. People make such a fuss of British culture and the culture of this, and Britain is great at that, and British this, British that, and so on. But actually, every aspect of our culture, is in the hands of an artist. Everything.
Yeah.
And you can mention suits, tailoring, etiquettes. You could mention cooking, architecture, design, music, theatre, writing, poetry, painting, art, visual arts, anything you name that is a proud bit of Britain's culture is in the hands of an artist somewhere. And it's able to be enjoyed by people when they're not doing other things, when they're not working. The arts are there to reflect their nature back to them and the country's nature back to itself. That's our job. And that in its own measure is important. It's very important to do that, because if you have no practicing artists, if you have no vibrant channel to create new artists and new forms of art, then your country has no culture.
Yeah, well, definitely. And I think culture is so important. I think everyone's kind of embracing their own and embracing the wider thing at the moment. It's so great to kind of see. But in the Lester household, today is a very big day. It's an exciting moment. Your new book with your wife Lolita is kind of dropped today. Has it been a really?
We call it dropped. They said it's been published, and I went, no, it's dropped. Yeah, no, I mean, me writing a book, I'm thinking, I want to call up my old English teacher and go, I wrote a book. It's a diary piece. We started it in when we started April 2018, and we kept a diary right through till July 2019. So it's what, 16 months. And it's just, it's called a working diary. It's a series called Working Diary with Methuen. They've done a few before, so we're not like the first ones to do it. And it's just a look at, what working life is like while we're at home behind the scenes, what we're working on, how we were working on them, what we thought about them, auditions, rehearsals, Lolita's writing, rehearsal. It's all in there. It's not a personal take on things, because we are very kind of private, really. Whatever we do, there are things we just don't discuss. That's not up for grabs, it's for the public. But everything else is in the book.
Was it quite therapeutic kind of doing it, kind of like getting all of that out about your working life?
Yeah, it was, in a way. Not at the time that we were doing it, but and we say this in the book, but when we read back over the 6 months of the work, it was quite therapeutic, because it's strange. Sometimes you don't know why you're tense, or why you're a little bit angry, or why you're frustrated, or you just carry it around with you. You don't know why you're feeling like that. And then I read back over the 6 months as I was checking through the diary, and I could think, oh, actually, yeah, I can see why I'm frustrated, because I can see what the pattern of my auditions have been, and what the pattern of the projects I've proposed to certain TV companies, what that's been. And it just settles inside you sometimes, disappointments and things like that. So it was really good to sit in that space and say, yeah, this is what it feels like. And hopefully, I think, to other people who are thinking of going into the profession, or wonder at their own disappointments, or their own frustrations, or their own kind of lack of being able to move forward, even at our stage, and we've managed to make a living working. Even at our stage, the same frustrations exists. The same feeling that doors are closed exists. It's just a different level, different perspective. So it was therapeutic to write it, and we've got copies now, and we were looking through and going, oh my God, people are going to read this, and it's quite exciting to think what they're going to think when they read this. So we'll see.
Amazing. Well, Adrian, I am excited. I'm going to go buy the copy as well. Just kind
Oh,
of
thank you.
Background, just kind of see what that whole life must be like, because it must be absolutely crazy for you. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak to me, and hopefully you get out and enjoy this beautiful weather.
Yeah, this hot, beautiful weather. I'm going to get out and do that.